Hello. Hello, hello, hello. And, to a lesser extent, hi. How we doing? Hello, Doc. Hello, Rectal. It's time for the history of loots, which is not entirely a million miles off. If I can pronounce things. If today's going to be all about talking, so we're off on a bad foot. Or the wrong foot. I guess a bad foot implies there's probably more than two. Yeah. Oh, look, and we have a mathematical fact. Does anyone remember that? That was from the XCOM playthrough. It was ages ago. How we doing? We having a good Sunday? Sunday treating everybody well? Or Monday, if your time zone is, overachieving? Yeah. It's Sunday. We need music for today. I don't know what music we should have. So let's find some. What do we got? Something upbeat, maybe. Do I have anything upbeat? Probably not. Oh, I have the Cuphead soundtrack, but that causes copyright claims, so we'll avoid that. I have Dark Souls. I have Dark Souls music going in the background. Why not? This is the Dark Souls of maths. Sure, why not? We'll go with it. Boom. Well, that is this is a relaxing track. We're just making our character. We just mash that randomized face button or similar face. Yeah. So I now need to move things. I have a slightly different setup, so I'm doing things slowly. My apologies for things. Also, I'm turning away from the microphone, which is not ideal. This setup requires finesse. But it's fine. Hopefully, I should be able to read chat a little better. Been good. Work was overflowing with people, and you're going to rebuild the hall with some stone and fancy stuff. But I think I've been away from the game for so long, I don't think I'm going to recognize anything in it. So I will at some point this week crack on with the Elder, and then I'll hop in, and hopefully on Friday I can join in again. Yeah. So I assume you're referring to Valheim, because if not, good job renovating an actual hall. Yeah. So, what are we doing today? That's a good question. Let's pop over to the doodle scene. There it is, doodle scene. It's doodle time. I still need to put something behind chat so you can actually read it when it's on this screen, but whatever. Right, okay, so what are we doing today? Today I'm going to talk about something that interests me, that I kind of worked out vaguely for myself. And then the internet verified it for me, which is nice. But it's something which has been kind of bugging me for about 12 years. And I worked it out, and I'm slightly less annoyed with it now, but I still need to do a bit of work to properly work out what's going on. But, yeah. There's a portal tower now, which you're going to be rebuilding as well, as you saw one that looked cooler. Oh no, it's Minecraft all over again. I made a house, I'm proud of it. Oh no, the internet has shown me amazing things in Minecraft. I feel bad about my small house. Such is the way of the internet, and people being more creative than you. For there will always be somebody more creative than you. Yeah. So I want to talk about a number, kind of. We probably actually won't get around to the number for a while. But the number, in case you're interested, foreshadowing, spoilers, is 2... which is a nice number in and of itself, really. It's 2 to the power of 7/12. This number is my favourite number at the moment, and also the bane of my existence. Here to listen to your chat about things that interest you. Marvellous. It may interest you to know that I have a hair in my mouth, and I blame my cat. You've not promised to understand, but you're here to listen. It's fine, it's mostly going to be pictures. It's fine. I wouldn't talk about maths without doing pictures, so... yeah, pictures. My favourite area of maths was combinatorics. There's pictures all over the place. Love it. Yeah, she gifted you that. Ha. It's very annoying. Gonna need a drink. Hang on. What a way to start. Right. Hair notwithstanding. Also, hi miss, how you doing? Hair notwithstanding, a little bit of information about this number. What does it mean? You might not understand quite what the notation means. You might have seen integer powers. You may not know what it means to have a fractional power. Basically what this means is, there's several ways of writing it. The way that would be most useful for us is to say that it's the 12th root of 2 to the power of 7. So what this means to explain the notation that explains the notation. I'm gonna get picky about how I draw 2s now. I'm on stream, I've got to do things nicely. What this means is if I was to multiply this by itself 12 times, I would get this, which is what you would get if you were to multiply 2 by itself 7 times. Which is, I don't know, what is that? 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So it's the 12th root of 128, if you prefer. I prefer writing it like this for reasons that will become apparent soon. So basically this is the thing, so just for the sake of completion, if I were to 12th root of 2 to the 27 times the 12th root of 2 to the 7 times ... times the 12th root of 2 to the 7, and we do that 12 times, so that's 12 of these. This is going to be equal to 2 to the 7, which is 2 times 2 times ... times 2, 7 times. It's just an explanation as to what this is. It's the number. That's what I'm going to be talking about, basically. You're good! Drinking iron brew as medicine for a headache. Look, you're not doing an awful lot for the Scott stereotypes here. Fancy number. It's a good number. And I'll get around to explaining why this number is simultaneously amazing and very annoying. Although you could argue that it's not the number that's annoying, it's the universe. So, whatever. Right. First things first. You don't care, you'll sit in your kilt and be a stereotype. Kilts are cool. I like kilts. Yeah. Like the big ones that go over the shoulder and all that, even better. Right. Sound. Do we know what sound is? Sound is a vibration. So, yeah, sound is something vibrates. It then vibrates the air around it by virtue of being in contact with the air. The air then propagates that vibration until the air in your ear vibrates, and then it vibrates the little membrane in your ear called your eardrum, and then that sends an electrical signal to your brain, and your brain goes, sound! So that's what sound is. So you have, as sort of time goes on, you have fluctuations in... Ooh, there's some sound. Might need to turn the music down a tad now that we're going to start getting to boss music and stuff. The universe is annoying since when? Since forever. We've seen quantum physics. Yeah, so sound fluctuates up and down. I guess I really probably should do something like that. That's usually how sound is depicted. It wobbles forwards and then it wobbles backwards. And the oscillations give you sound, essentially. And the thing that we are interested in today is frequency, which is how quickly it is oscillating, not how strong it is. That's volume. That would give you volume. Amplitude, I should say. But we want to know the frequency. So, say for example we have a sound, simple sound. I'm actually going to do it with the thing here. Simple sound like that. Nice little sine wave sort of thing. And let's say that about there. Let's say we start at 0 seconds, and then over here this is 1 second. So this is a little graph of how the thing is vibrating over time. Whatever it is. Membrane, air, doesn't matter. Trumpet, horn, flute, not a flute. I didn't really want that. Well, no, that could work. The way we measure frequency is we say, okay, how many times does it go... How many times does it oscillate in a second? So here, this is the starting point. So just sort of go through it like that. I picked a nice, somewhat nice example. Because you could say, you might look at this and go, okay, well, it's hitting it there and there and there and there and there. So that's 5 times a second. No, that's not how it happens. Because it's going up here, and we want it to go up each time it's gone one full oscillation. So this here, that's one oscillation here. That's one. And then here's another one. Another one. And then we've got like a half of one here. So we have 2.5, or 5/2, or 2.5, whatever you want. Hello, Kira. How you doing? Welcome to me explaining sound. Yeah, so we say that this is oscillating 2.5 times a second. We just say that's 2.5 hertz. That's just what hertz means. Hertz is, I'm pretty sure, is literally 2.5 1/seconds. I think that's what hertz is. They're just inverses of seconds. Yeah, so it's just oscillating 2.5 times a second. Our human hearing, I think, is somewhere in between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. And what this actually means, for the purposes of hearing sounds, is that the smaller the frequency, so the less time less number of times it vibrates per second, the lower the note sounds, and the higher the frequency, the higher the note sounds. So a mouse would be very high frequency vibration, the little vocal cords in the mouse throat vibrating very quickly, and a clap of thunder, very low frequency, big old wobbles. Anything more than 20,000 hertz. Yeah, I have oddly high hearing. I can hear cat alarms, the things that people put in their gardens to keep cats away. I had to tell my neighbour to turn theirs either off or increase the pitch because it was annoying. Same. Oh, marvellous. Glad it's not just me. Yeah. I'm surprised, actually, because I've had very bad discipline when it comes to looking after my ears when mixing music over the years, so I'm surprised it's still somewhat intact. Also, they don't work on cats. It didn't seem to faze my cat, but then again, I don't think a lot phases her, so... yeah. So yeah, that's frequency. It's how many times something goes round in its cycle. Cycle. You know, what's the cycle of this exactly? It's a bit of, you get a bit dodgy when you start, adding waves together, but generally speaking, it's fine. Yeah, Jeb, hello. You have to explain everything again. Okay, cool. This is the number we're going to be looking at. 2 to the power of 7/12. What that means is it's the 12th root of 2 to the power of 7. What does that mean? It means when you multiply it by itself 12 times, like that, what you get is 2 to the 7, which is what happens when you multiply 2 by itself 7 times. That's the number we're going to be looking at. I then ignore that number and start talking about sound. Sound is oscillation of waves. It's vibrations. Things vibrate the air, and then that vibrates your ear, and you hear sound. What we're interested in is frequency. How many oscillations happen per second. The higher the frequency, more something vibrates, faster it vibrates, the higher the pitch the sound is to us, and the slower it vibrates, the lower pitch it is. That's it. That's all I explained so far. Because I'm very concise and I don't ramble whatsoever. Yeah, so. Hey, welcome. Also, hi, Jeb. How you doing? Right, so. Give you a practical example. Here is, let's say, have little things like this. Here is a string. If I can draw a straight line. There we are. There's a string. And it's fixed at two ends like that. So this could be a guitar string, a violin string, a piece of wire on a fence. Doesn't matter, it's just a long, thin thing that's fixed at two ends. Be quiet, Taurus Demon. How long is that piece of string? For these purposes, it doesn't actually matter. So let's say, 2.5. Yeah, so, when this vibrates, it has a nice little pattern. So what you do is if you want to pluck it, or bow it, or hit it with a hammer, or a sheep jumps into it, it'll vibrate something like this. Yep. Let's just move the goalposts, it's fine, and then like that, it'll sort of move up and down like that, wibbly wobbly. So guitar strings, piano strings, all that sort of stuff. They vibrate like that. And one oscillation of this would be how long it takes. Well, it would be going from the top down to the bottom and then back up again. So that's one oscillation of that. The number of times it does that per second is its frequency. They vibrate. You can play jump rope with it. Yeah. There's an argument to say that jump rope has a natural resonant frequency, although it's not taught. It doesn't have to be taught, I guess. But there's a few things that are quite interesting about strings in this example, which is how fast they vibrate is kind of inherent to the physical model that you have. So if you make the string tighter, it'll vibrate faster. If you make the string thinner, it'll vibrate faster. Thick strings are going to be really floppy and whatnot. Very thin strings are quite fast because there's less mass that you have to vibrate. So it's going to, if you put in the same amount of energy, it's going to vibrate faster. And if you make it shorter, it will vibrate faster. So there's different ways of changing the frequency. You can make it higher pitch by either making it tighter, shorter, or thinner. But generally speaking, or sheep, yes. Jump rope for sheep, it's fine. Might be a bit of a muffled pluck, but yeah, it's fine. So, that's an example of something vibrating. We'll come back to that. That's sound. We can now move on to music. Music is a lot of things, but one of the things it is harmony. And harmony is basically how do several sounds feel? How do they interact when they're being played at the same time? And there are several relationships which are very natural and sound very nice and pleasant because of the way the oscillations match up. So, for example, if you were to have another... I'm not good at drawing sine waves, it's fine. Hang on, I'll cheat. Like that. Then I'll just copy it. It's a sine wave, it's fine. And I'm being accompanied by the bell gargoyles, thank you very much. Let's make this a bit thinner. Look, fit on screen. And perfect so that you have this on in the background. It's fine. Right. So here's a vibration. Here's something vibrating. It could be a string going up and down. This isn't a string. This is how far away it is from the center as time goes on. If we were to take so let's... Well, it doesn't matter about the frequency. Let's say we have another thing that's vibrating next to it. And we want to see how much that's doing. Obviously, if it's vibrating exactly the same, then that's a bit boring. But actually, it's not boring, because if it's vibrating absolutely identical, you'll just hear the same sound twice as loud. But if it's vibrating in the opposite direction, like that, you'll hear nothing. Because they'll cancel each other out. It's really weird. You can kind of do this with music if you change the phase. It's very fun. That's also very good for isolating vocals. If you have a song and an instrumental version of the song, if you play them both at the same time but invert the phase of the instrumental, you'll only hear the vocals. It's very weird. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. That's an aside. If what we do is... how many of these do I have? If I say, okay, I want this one to vibrate twice as fast as the other one. Like that. That sounds both logical and fake at the same time. It's great. It's a magic trick. Yeah, so I want this to vibrate twice as much as the first one. So every time this one oscillates once, this one is going to oscillate twice. Like that. Okay, so this is going twice as fast. This is very pleasing to the ears. So pleasing that it's quite difficult to tell the difference between the two. And the reason for that is that when you add these waves together, the amount of time it takes for the whole wave to start over again is exactly the same as the frequency of the lower note, the one that's going slower. So that one's going to be the one that hits your ears first, and they just work together very nicely. And they work together so nicely that this isn't even called harmony. These are the same note. So, for example, if I were to call this, if this was an A note, so, I don't know, 440 hertz, that's the A below middle C, and this would be 880 hertz, because it's double, it's vibrating twice as fast, we'd also call this A. We say it's the same note, it's just higher. And that's because harmonically they just sound so similar, and they feel like they fit together without anything else being added, if that makes sense. So I have a guitar. It's here. I have a prop. So here's an A if I'm in tune. Fingers crossed. What string should I do this on? There we go. There's an A. Is that in tune? It's in tune with the song. Who knew there was an A in the Gaping Dragon song? Anyway, here's an A. Might be worth turning the music off for this. There we go. Here's an A. And here is double the frequency. So you might be able to sort of, again, I don't know how much of this is just bias from what I know about music, but they sound like the same note but higher, you know? And if you play them together, they just sort of blend together very nicely. There's no real, you know, if I were to play this, that's not a nice blend. Those notes don't work well together. These two, very smooth, very simple, like that. So yeah, if you double the frequency of something, here's the music again. If you double the frequency of a note, you get what's called an octave. Ignore the fact that it's got the word oct in it. Octave, sorry. It's got nothing to do with the number 8 at the moment. We're not going to deal with that. Western music likes to put numbers where it doesn't belong. Yeah, so you can do that, and you can do it again if you wanted to. You can do 1760 hertz, which would be double that, and you get another A, which would look like this, I guess. Oop, no, it wouldn't slide. There. And this would be vibrating, so this is times 2, so this would be times 4. It's 4 times faster than the original. Can I play that? Probably, I might have enough. I should have enough frets. Can I play it comfortably? There's a question. Yeah, so there are those 2 notes there. It's just a lot higher than you started, and my guitar's tuning is not ideal, but other than that, it's fine. Right, multiplying by 2. There's basically what I want to get across here is that if you vibrate something twice as fast, it's the same note, but higher. You could also halve it, obviously. You could go down to 220. That would be an A below. That. Oop. Move. Is it? Yeah, so you can multiply by 2, you can divide by 2, you can do all of that, and you'll still be on the same note, you'll just get a higher or lower version of it, okay? So that's the simplest relationship between oscillations that naturally arises, and here's how it would work with a string. Okay, so we have our string, and if we pluck it, it vibrates like this. If instead we say, okay, because when I say it vibrates like this, it doesn't vibrate exactly like this. There's lots of other little wobbles and vibrations going on underneath. This is just the one it wants to do the most. You know, if all it did was that, you get a pure sine wave, but you don't. You get lots of other little vibrations. And so if you tell the string, do you know what? I don't want you to do the big one. I want you to do another one. Then it will do another one for you. So if you instead, this is your string. It's 1. It's length 1. That's how long a string is. If you were to find the halfway point, and just put your finger there, like that. Well, you're wearing a nice shirt and a jacket. If you were to just put your finger on the string, don't push it, don't bend it, don't squash it or anything like that. Just leave it there. And you were to pluck it, you wouldn't get this sort of vibration. What you would get is the halfway point, roughly. You would get this. It would go down like that and up like that, and this would go up like that and down like that. And your finger would still be there. And your shirt would be intact. Because this is not a dangerous experiment. You would essentially, what you would do is you would trick it into thinking that it's 2 strings of shorter length. 2 strings of half length. Because it can't wobble like this, like it wants to, because you have your finger, you've put your finger there, so it can't push the middle bit up and down as it wants to. So instead, a smaller vibration will take over, and you'll get something that looks like this. Since you've tricked it into thinking that it's 2 strings of half length, as I said before, if you make the length smaller, the pitch will go higher. And if you halve the length, you double the frequency. So this is what's called a harmonic. You can do it on a guitar or a violin, or I guess you could do it on a fence bit of wire. You can try it. I haven't tried myself, but I'm sure the farmer will be mad at me. But you can do it, and it will sound an octave higher. So for example, if I take this string, which is G flat for me, if I were to double that frequency, normally on the guitar it would sound like this. So this is the note, double the frequency, 4, like that. If I were to do the harmonic, so compare that to the normal note, pretty similar. Hopefully you can hear this. That's just me resting my finger on the string halfway along, plucking. I can take my finger off after I've done it, and it just vibrates at a higher note. Because it's vibrating twice as fast, because you've tricked it into thinking, I don't have a guitar stand, you've tricked it into thinking that it's two strings of half the length. So it's half the length, twice the frequency. Yeah, so this is a very natural thing to do. It's not just me saying, oh, you know, Western music, so on and so forth. Strings do it. If strings do it, it can't be half bad. But we still have only made one note, and we're halfway through we're half an hour in, so probably need to pick up the pace a little bit. We want more notes. If you try and make music with one note, you're not going to get very far, unless you're Steve Reich or someone. So, more relationships. Actual harmonics. Here is another sine wave. Let's try and draw at least one good one. Sine waves are hard. That'll do. GT. Never get the ending right. So here is another one. This is something vibrating, string, not a flute, whatever. Slightly sawtoothed. It's fine. What if instead of doubling it, you triple it? So you triple the speed at which it's vibrating. Well, we know that if we multiply something by 2, we get the same note but higher. And if we halve it, we get the same note but lower. Multiplying it by 3 puts it beyond multiplying it by 2. So for example, if this was 440 hertz, and we were to multiply this by 3, we would get 1320 hertz. But that's above the next A up. So we've gone beyond what we need to. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to multiply it by 3 and then divide it by 2, just so we can bring it back down close to the note we started. 2 flutes with a piece of string between them. Is that a flute? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 3 halves, or 1.5. So how am I going to do this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go, this is 1 oscillation, this is 2 oscillations, and I'm going to unos, dos, tres. Just going to grab this. Go, no, go like that. So this way, this is going to be multiplying by 1.5, or 3 over 2, however you want to. Right, 3 halves, 1.5, whatever. And what we get something that every time this vibrates twice, 2, this will vibrate 3 times. Okay? And now we legitimately have a different note. This is what's called the dominant. So this is that is the dominant of that. It's also called the perfect fifth. Again, I'm not going to get into numbers because fifth actually has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But it's called perfect for a reason. It's called perfect because in the medieval era, monks in Europe used to think that this was the only harmony worthy of God. It's so pure, it's so precise. Every other harmony is too corrupt and impure. So natural does this harmony sound. By way of an example, if this is the A that we had before, Why all of these pieces of music in Dark Souls have an A in them? This is the dominant. So if I play them together, bring the guitar a little closer so you can hear. So that's how they sound together. And if you play the dominant and then the starting note, that sounds like just a nice ending. if you want to end a piece of medieval music, that's a good way to do it. So we have legitimately created a new note, which sounds very good with our first note. In this, have I got to do maths now? Well, it'd be 660, wouldn't it? 660 hertz. In this case, this would be an A. This is E, but we won't get into that. Of course they thought that, bloody monks. So how does this work with our string? Well, again, I keep saying, oh, it's natural, it sounds good. Let's have a physical example. Here's our string. If instead of putting our finger, guess where we're going to put it? Guess where we're going to put our finger? That's out of context. That is not a great question. String is of length 1, whatever, 1 meter, 1 string's worth. If we put our finger a third of the way along, here. That's not really a third, is it? Yeah, it's closer. Third of the way along, like that. We're going informal today, or maybe we've got like a nice sleeveless dress or something on. What we'll get, as I'm sure you can probably guess at this point, is just gonna copy and paste my wonderfully drawn hand to that. At that point, and that point, we will get something that is vibrating like this. You've tricked it into thinking that it's 3 smaller strings of 1/3 of the length, and this is going to be vibrating 3 times faster. A wrist, how naughty, I know. What would the monks think? Yeah, and so that what you're going to get is you're going to get the dominant above the dominant, or you're going to get an octave of the dominant, because that's 3 halves times 2. So you take the dominant, which is multiplying by 1.5, and then you can double it to get the same note but higher. Yeah, and you'll get a higher note. So for example, here's a note. Bang, that's me banging my guitar. It's fine, don't worry about it. Here's a note. This is E flat. And if I were to do third of the way along, it's quite quiet when you get down to this point, but so you still have that nice cadence of it sort of returning back to where it started, but now it's a lot higher than it was because you have to multiply by 1.5 and then by 2. If you can't allow wrists, then what's next? If you will allow wrists, what's next? Ankles! Got people showing ankles. Cover up those piano legs, mother. They're inflaming my sexual ardor. Was that Bill Bailey, I think? You don't get why the larger part would have a twisty in the middle. That's because it's trying to copy this, and then it gets to this point and goes, oh wait, there's still more string. More. It wants to keep this pattern going, essentially. There are other things. You could have another finger here trying to keep this still, and you'll probably get a better result. But you only actually need one of them to get this to work. In fact, the reason I wanted a slinky, I couldn't find my slinky. But you can do this with a slinky. Obviously, you're not going to pluck your slinky, but what you can do is you can do the opposite. If you take your slinky and you find out what frequency makes it bob up and down naturally, so you just go whoop, 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 like that between your 2 hands. Doesn't have to be tight or anything, just make it jump up and down. If you were to just shake it on one end twice as fast, it would vibrate like that. And if you were to shake it on one end 3 times as fast, it would vibrate like that. It's just a natural thing that strings or slinkies or whatever like to do. So again, a natural thing. But in a sense, the monks were right, because this is a perfect harmony, in as much as using this one harmonic device here, multiplying this frequency by 1.5, or dividing it by 1.5. You could easily go the other way, divide by 3/2, or times by 2/3. It's the same thing. You can make what's called the subdominant. Yeah, you can make the subdominant, which will be a different note. In this case, it would be D. I'm not going to calculate what that is in hertz. But I'm actually going to, well, take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. Also, subdominant, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? It's fine, don't worry about it. So yeah, that's how you can make... That's like the first proper harmony is the dominant. But you can, in terms of Western music, that's all we actually need to make all of the notes. Because if you notice, if I went forwards, I made it forwards from an A, made an E, and if I went backwards from an A, I made a D. Different notes. So what happens if we keep doing that? What happens is, well, we get all the notes. I just spoiled it for you. We will get something called the circle of fifths. Again, ignore the fact that it's got the word 5 in it. It's fine. Doesn't matter. It's called the circle of fifths because there's 12 of them. That's roughly 12, isn't it? Okay, cool. So we start with an A, for example. You can start with any note. Doesn't matter. If you take the dominant of an A, multiply the frequency by 1.5, you'll get E. The reason we call it an E is for reasons coming up. You always knew 12 was actually 5. It's strictly, it's called a fifth. You get 12 notes and it's called the circle of fifth because they go up by sevenths. Don't worry about it. We'll get to that. These numbers aren't necessary. It's fine. But you can take the dominant of the E. You can multiply that by 1.5, and you will get B. It's the circle of fifths. Who named this thing? Western musicians. I'm specifying a lot about Western music here. The various other cultures have their own musical systems. This is Western music. If you see a piano, it's Western music. You want to have a chat with them. Okay, so let's say we multiply this by 1.5 or whatever. This is another 1.5. Okay, so now we have 2.25, I guess. Yeah, 9 quarters. Yeah. Or if you prefer, because we can divide this by 2, 1.125, 1.125, which is very close to where we started, which was this frequency, and then we add another eighth, which is not a lot, which is why we call this B, because it's very close to A. But we can keep doing this. Let's get rid of all that because of reasons that I'll explain later. You distrust this circle. You're right to. Keep that in mind. You want to have a chat with the entirety of Western music about their naming system. There are so many naming systems, it's terrible. Because we can... let's try and make this fit properly. We can take the dominant of the B, which would be F sharp. We can take the dominant of the F sharp, which would be C sharp. We can take the dominant of C sharp, which would be G sharp, or also known as A flat. We can take the dominant of G sharp or A flat, which is, well, this is C sharp is also D flat. F sharp is G flat. Yeah, the dominant of G sharp would be D sharp or E flat. You'll notice we've gone from A to E, and here we've gone A flat to E flat. So we can sort of cheat and just take that as our next thing. Next one's B flat, or A sharp if you prefer. And then it's F sharp flat, also known as F. And then you get, what's after F? C, and then it's G, and then it's D, and then it's A. And that's why it's called a circle, because if you do this enough times, you get back to where you started. Because if you'll remember, when we went back from an A, we got a D, which is what we get if we go all the way around to get the D and then the A. And this is where the 12 notes of Western music come from, is if you just keep taking these 1.5 times frequency dominant situations, you get all the 12 notes. Several systems of music from Eastern countries use 24 notes, which is basically fill in the gaps. But generally speaking, this is a nice system. You want to have so many chats, preferably while you're holding a knife. My chat is full of knives recently. They have an entire alphabet. Instead, they decided to make letters sharp, but also flat, and also other letters. Yeah, I won't get into why they do that. It's to do with scales and modes and whatever. Basically, if you play all the ones that don't have a flat or anything in them, these ones here, you get the C major scale, and then anything in between is a corruption of the C major scale, and they like their majors anyway. Or the A minor scale if you prefer. We started on A, why not? So that's essentially Western music in a nutshell. It's like, well, they managed to make the 12 notes because the 1.5 times dominant frequency thing, which sounds very nice to the ears, allows us to make 12 notes if you keep going around. Now, anyone who actually properly thinks in maths might have already spotted a problem here. And that is that what I've said is wrong. Because this is what I was taught in school. This is what I was taught. You got the dominant, it's 1.5 frequency, it goes around in circles, it's great. But if you actually sit down and do the maths, it's a bit of a problem. Because what we're doing here, what I said we're doing here, is we're multiplying by 3 halves, or 1.5, right? Or 3, or 6, or 12. Just keep multiplying, dividing by 2. You can do that to your heart's content, doesn't matter, because higher or lower notes, you're just multiplying or dividing by 2. If you lead the knife trend back to you, the knife trend isn't recent and has been going on for about 2 years now. That is true. You have already killed me with a knife, so who am I to judge? But that doesn't make sense, because if we're to start with a number, a frequency, whatever it is, F, let's say the note F, why not? And we're to multiply it by 3.5 to get the dominant, and then multiply it by another 3.5 to get the next dominant, and then multiply it by another 3.5 to get the next dominant, and so on and so forth. 3.5 until we've gone all the way around the wheel, which means we have to do it 12 times because there are 12 notes, so there are 12 of these. What we want, what the wheel says we should get, is the note that we started with, but possibly multiplied by a power of 2, whatever. Now we're worried, we're worried about making sense now, I know. So for whatever K is just a number. Well, it's just, right, whatever. So just you know, we might have to keep multiplying our original frequency by some power of 2, keep multiplying it by 2, you'll eventually get to where you want. So this is what the wheel says so far. This is what we've ascertained, and I can write this a little more nice, which is F times 3 to the power of 12 over 2 to the power of 12. 2 to the power of 12, thank you very much. That's equal to F times 2 to the power of whatever. Because this is my binary power of whatever. We can also get rid of the F's, because they cancel, it's fine. So this is what we're saying. Also, we can bring this 2 round to the other side. Just multiply by 2 to the 12. 3 to the 12 is equal to 2 to the whatever minus 12. Actually, sorry, whatever plus 12. Right. This is what we're saying. This is what the wheel is saying. Is that there is some whatever that makes this work. The wheel is a lie, I know. Well, the way I've presented the wheel is a lie, but we'll explain why in a minute. The monks are a lie, let's say. The monks lied. This is a problem. If you want to get technical, the number on the left is a power of a prime, the number on the right is a power of a different prime. There is no way these two things can be equal. If you want to be specific, and just disprove this particular example, the number on the left is odd and the number on the right's even. So these aren't equal. These can't be equal. Which means these can't be equal, which means this can't be equal, which means this can't work. So why does this exist? Why is Western music a thing? And the reason is because our hearing isn't very good. We're not actually that good at making out frequency. Because this was going through my brain a few weeks ago, and I was like, I've just realized after doing music for 12 years, I've just realized this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? And I sort of thought, well, what would make sense? What actually would make this work? And what I worked out, and subsequently verified, this isn't just me supposing stuff, it is a thing, is instead of multiplying by 1.5 when we want to find the dominant? What if instead we multiply by 1.49837 something. Now this number is very, very close to 1.5. It's very close. It's 0.002-ish out, which is a fifth of a percent. If you were to play a note that was 1.5 times the frequency and then play the 1.498307 times the frequency together, or one after the other, you probably wouldn't tell a difference. And that's the thing. You probably wouldn't tell the difference. This is 2 to the power of 7 over 12. And it just so happens that it's really close to 1.5. But because of what I said before, 2 to the power of 7 over 12, if I were to multiply 2 to the power of 7 over 12 by itself, 7 over 12, times 2 to the power of 7 over 12, 12 times, what do we get? We get 2 to the power of 7, which is a power of 2, which makes this whole thing work. So if instead of taking 1.5, we take 2 to the power of 7 over 12, which sounds basically the same, we actually get Western music, essentially. And that's why this developed, is because our ears aren't good enough to tell the difference between these two things. And this was the realization that made me go, wonderful, this is why it makes sense. But beyond that, there's a couple of really nice things. One, this is amazing. The fact that there is any fractional power of 2 that's even this close, less than 1% close to 1.5 is amazing. There's no guarantee that should be. This is a complete coincidence. There's no mathematical number theory going on here. There's nothing, no special theorem or anything. This is just coincidence. But more than that, it has the number 12 in it, which means that we get 12 notes. If you know anything about the history of numbers, 12 is very significant. There's a reason we have 12 months in a year. There's a reason we have 5 lots of 12 minutes in an hour and 2 lots of 12 hours in a day and all these things. 12 is very nicely divisible. You can divide it by 2, you can divide it by 3, you can divide it by 4, you can divide it by 6, you can divide it by lots of things. And, you know, even more so if you times it by 5, you can divide it by 5 at that point. There's a reason we have 360 degrees in a circle. All these things. Life finds a way, I know. And there's no reason 12 should be there. It just is. And what that means is that our number wheel, our circle of fifths, circle of dominance, just divides up nicely into nice little groups. Into 3s, for instance. Or into 4s. Like that. Which is basically how you make augmented and diminished chords. But it just adds a lot of symmetry to music, which otherwise wouldn't be there. I decided to actually experiment and look around for other powers of 2 that might be quite close. The next best one I could find, I think, was 2 to the power of... what was it? Was it 8 over 17 or something? No, 9 over 17. 9 over 17, which is... Hang on, let me get a calculator. Yeah, I just dropped my pen. It's fine, don't worry about it. So 2 to the power of 9 over 17 is... 9 over 17 is... not the number I'm thinking of. 10 over 17 then. That's the one. 10 over 17 is 1.5034 something. So it's not quite as close because this is out by 3 here and it's out by less than 1 there. And it's not a nice number. 17 is not a nice number. It's prime. You can't divide it by anything. Another close one is like 2 to the power of, I think it was 11 over 19 is also pretty close. You have to get up to, what was it, 2 to the power of, I think something like 16 over 29 or something, until you get anything closer than this. So you're already dealing with not very nice numbers if you want to get any closer than this. So this is just like, I kind of want to get across just how amazing a coincidence, a mathematical coincidence this is. If this wasn't true, and there's no reason it should be true, Western music would look nothing like it is. It's this number that makes it work. And as a consequence, this is why this is one of my favourite numbers at the moment. However, just to take the edge off a little bit, this is also one of my least favourite numbers. because for the last 13 years, this thing has been a pain in the backside. For a very simple reason, and that is because it means I can't tune my guitar properly. And it's been driving me nuts as to why it never is in tune. And I know why now, it's because of this number. Right, I need to explain this. Harmonics, these things, putting your finger on the string and it vibrates differently, right? There's a little trick you can do on a guitar. So here's my guitar, here's the neck, the top of the neck. Here is, we won't confuse it with that, we just have 6 strings. That string, then that string, that string, that string, that string. Okay, so here's the lowest string down here. Why didn't I just do straight lines like that? I have a straight line tool in this. So this is the lowest string, it's an E. E flat for me, I have it in a different tuning, but generally speaking it's fine, the relationships all still work. The next one up's an A, and then D, G, B, E. So we're going up in frequency here, or down the neck. Whatever. Now there's a way of tuning your guitar, which means if you either don't care about being in tune with anything else, or you know that one of your strings is in tune, then you can tune all of the rest of the strings without worrying about it. And this is how you do it. Okay, so you might notice that these notes are a nice gap apart. In particular, you might notice that some of these bear some similarity to certain wheels that we've been looking at before. So here's an E, and here's an A, and here's a D, and here's a G, and here's an A, and E, and A, a D, and a G. There's a reason they're laid out like this. Dominants are nice. These are actually subdominants going up. But we can use that to our advantage. Because, if you remember, E is the dominant of A, as we showed down here. Only it's not 1.5, it's times 2 to the power of 7 over 12, as we now know. So what can we do with that? How can we abuse this? Right, if we know either E or A, that string's in tune, what we can do is we can go to the 1/3 mark of the string. We can put our finger on it here. Yeah, that's right. And we can just play here. We can play the harmonic of the E, which will give us... Is that the way around I want to do it? No, it's the other way around, sorry. I'm going to do the 1/3 of A. How many times have I done this? And that, when you have to explain it, it's like trying to explain how to tie your shoelaces. Yes, what we'll get is we'll get something that is 3 times the frequency of the original thing, because it's going to be vibrating like this. 3 times the frequency. And what's the dominant of A? The dominant of A is E. So what we should get is an E. But it's going to be an E that's a lot higher than this one, because this string is lower than this string is lower than this string. But we can fix that, because if we were to go to the 1/4 mark on the string, let's draw another diagram. If we were to go to the 1/4 mark and put our hand there. Wearing some rings now. And a nice bracelet. What we'll get... Something like that. It'll vibrate as though it were 4 strings that were 1/4 of the size, and as a consequence it'll vibrate 4 times faster, so we'll get the octave above the octave. We'll get the same note, but 2 levels higher. So we can do that. We can do that here, so we'll get this, which will be times 4. But we know that this relationship, this is a dominant. So if we play this and this at the same time, they should be the same. They should be the same note. So for example, if I do that right now on this guitar, that sounds pretty similar. And that's how you can tune those 2 notes, those 2 strings together. And because A is the dominant of D, is it? Yes, it is. We can do exactly the same thing here. We can match this up with this and tune those. So we have these 2, we have these 2. We can do the same here, these 2. So we can now tune 4 strings. First album sold, they can afford some flash. What are we doing about? I miss things, it's fine. We can't do it here, because B and G are not... They're not together on the wheel. But B and E are, so we can do the same up here. These are mediants of one another, rather than dominants. But, because B and E are... this... No, hang on. This note here... This will give us the dominant of E, which is B. So if we just play this open, without any harmonics or whatever, they will be the same. And if you want to absolutely double check, this string played open will be the same as that, because it's the same note, but up a couple of octaves, so it's a higher version of that note. So here are all of these harmonics as played. So this is the E and the A. Here's the A and the D. Here's the D and the G. Here's the third of the E down here and the open B. And here's the quarter E and the open E at the top. And using that, you can tune your guitar if one of your strings is in tune or you don't care about playing along with anything else. And that's very, very nice and great and wonderful. But boy howdy, it never seems to bloody work. You always tune the first 4 strings, and then you do this little trick here to get the B nice, and then you do this to get the E nice, and so on and so forth, and then you play a chord and you're like, that's not in tune. What's going on? Has anyone noticed what's going on? I've been sneaky again. I've been mixing up dominants and threes. I've been saying again, oh, this is if we play this, it's times 3, and like, oh, multiplying by 1.5 is just, or multiplying by 3, you get the dominant note. No, you don't. Multiplying by 3, you don't get the dominant note. You have to multiply by 2 lots of 2 to the power of 7 over 12. We just ascertained this. This doesn't work. This is what we should be doing. But your string, that still wants to vibrate at 3. It doesn't want to vibrate at 2.996 something. I don't know, what would it be? 2 to the power of 7 over 12 times 2. 2.99661 or whatever. Which is not what the harmonic is telling you. Compounding error, exactly. So if you try and do this exactly, if your ears are good enough, this is the most annoying thing about this, is the better that your ears are, the worse this gets. If you try and do this exactly, if you say, okay, my E string's in tune, my bottom E string's in tune, so I can then tune the A string up using this trick, I can then tune the D string up using this trick, and then this string up using this trick. By the time you get here, because you've had to multiply things by 3 instead of 2 lots of 2 to the power of 7 over 12, you have double the amount of error that there is by 1 string. You then do it again, you have 4 times the error. You then do it again, you have 8 times the error. Or is it 8 times the error cubed? I haven't sat down and worked this out. It's compound error. So if you try and then do this one, which is already wrong, you're going to end up with these 2 strings sounding absolutely nothing alike. I used to think it was just a problem with B strings. I used to think, oh, B strings, they're always, you know, they're not manufactured properly or something. No, it's the tuning system. It's bloody awful. So what I've had, and this is why this number is my favourite and my least favourite, because without it, Western music wouldn't exist. But with it, I can't tune my bloody guitar. Because what I should be doing is finding some sort of harmonic which is times 2.99660 or whatever, which isn't going to happen. So I'm now unlearning 12 years of guitar tuning and trying to learn to tune. What do I have to do? Do I have to do it like slightly under or slightly over what I can hear? Because when I say, you know, playing 1.5 times the sound and then this times the sound after each other, you probably wouldn't notice a difference. Playing them simultaneously, you probably wouldn't notice that 2 sounds are being played. You'd probably think that 1 sound is being played, but there's also another sound that's going like that, because there's a weird phase issue, because they're so close together. And you can feel that. When you tune a guitar, you can feel that. And when that goes away, you're like, perfect, I've I've perfectly tuned my strings, but I have now learned that's actually wrong. You have to keep some of that in, otherwise you'll have error. A guitar's just always out of tune. No, you can tune to an external source. It's this harmonic tuning trick that's the problem, because the harmonic is always ×3. That's not changed. This whole splitting into 3 parts, that's still the same. It's always ×3, but we don't want ×3. We want times 2.99660. We want times 2 to the power of 14 over 12. So yeah, it's just so when you play a harmonic on an instrument, it's actually not in tune. Harmonics aren't in tune. That's probably a good takeaway, actually. These harmonics are, because ×4, that's still fine. We still want powers of 2, that's grand. But these ones, anything that isn't a power of 2 is almost certainly out of tune. Because by the nature of having this as your interval, all note relationships are irrational, which means that there is no rational number, no ratio of 2 numbers, no fraction, that can describe the relationship between, for example, a D and a G sharp, or what have you. It's just going to be a weird fractional power of 2. And harmonics, they like fractions. They like splitting themselves up into nice, even sections. So the way that Western music has developed to have 12 notes means that harmonics fundamentally are never in tune. And as a consequence, neither is my guitar, because I learned a way of tuning a guitar that is wrong. Yeah. And that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. I had this realization lying in bed trying to sleep one night. And I was like, oh, you're an idiot. It's taken you 13 years to work this out. Yeah, so there's a lot of sort of finagling when you're trying to tune a guitar. Not as much as a piano, but I have tried to tune a piano before. We think about very different things while lying awake at night. I mean, it's not often I do lie awake at night nowadays. It takes me ages to get to sleep, but my brain is usually empty when that's happening. So, but usually if I'm laying awake at night, it's because there's an unsolved problem, and it's gnawing at me. I used to have that a lot at university. I like your funny words, music math man. Yeah, basically harmonics are nice, but they're not musical. They're not precisely musical, but maybe that makes them nice. Yeah. So that's that. There you go. I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to share the revelation. Hopefully my enthusiasm for this came across and the numbers weren't too horrible, because I tried to do more pictures than numbers. I think I succeeded. You understand maybe 70% of what you told me today. So long as the main thing you understand is that the nice geometric pattern and the actual maths that makes it work aren't the same, but they're close enough that your ear doesn't notice the difference. Monks don't have good ears. Take that away. You feel like you have to do something with this information, you don't know what. That's why I'm doing this stream. I felt like I had to do something with it as well. I was going to make a video, but I thought, I don't know if this is interesting enough to have, like, you know, properly editing and proper scripting and all that sort of stuff. So I just decided to, hey, I'll chat about it on stream. Hopefully it's good. 70% will get you a passing grade. Universities in Britain, 40% will get you a passing grade. 70% will get you a first class. I've never understood that. You can literally go to university in Britain, forget more than half of the things you were taught, and pass. It's great. Be sure to write monks have bad ears on the test. That will show me that you at least stay to the end. Right, now that's done, what are we going to draw? Let's do some doodles. We've got a spare hour. We finished the lecture early. No, you can't go home. You have to stay, but you know, I can wheel out the old VCR and we can play Ace Ventura or something. Or that you just watched the end. They want to give you at least something for all the money. Yeah, I guess. There'll be more recommendations for new students to come in. probably not going to be many of those this year. They want to give you something, but not knowledge. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, how's everyone's weekend going? Now that the maths is over. What are you gonna doodle? I don't know. I was thinking of drawing a monk with bad ears. What do hearing aids look like? New deacons of the deep. Yes, it's Malvotio, but human. He's got big old ears. By the way, I don't wish to mock anybody who requires a hearing aid. Get a hearing aid. If your hearing's not good, get a hearing aid. It's good. You can be able to hear. It's amazing. Modern technology. It's great. I just like the idea that an old monk with a hearing aid is the person who made modern music. Seems funny. No apologies. I don't want to stigmatize hearing aids, because hearing aids are amazing, and people should get them if they need them. Apologies, you had to assist your nephew with Animal Crossing adventures. Ah, you missed the class. You missed the class. You're not going to pass the exam. Also, hi. How's Animal Crossings and nephews? Hi, Seif, how you doing? You barely passed your maths exam as a teen, so that's nothing new. It's fine. Well, we'll recap for Mrs.'s sake. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Your host a study group, yeah. Oh, I remember. When I was at university, I did a 12-week study thing for first-year undergraduates, and it was basically, hey, these 4 modules. You need to know these before you do your second year, because everything in your second year is going to rely on them, or at least one of them. So we're going to do these little study sessions once a week, and if you have any questions, you can ask. We'll do exercises and all that sort of stuff. I was like, okay, cool. Got to get, make sure they understand this important stuff. It was literally 12 weeks of absolute silence. Nobody said anything to me. It was the most uncomfortable hour. Every week, it was just nobody saying anything. Except the one week that somebody decided after the session to come up to me and say, hey, I don't understand this, can you explain it? That's what the session's for. Oh dear. Nephew and AC is good. You send him to an island based on Jurassic Park. Ooh, dinosaurs. Listen, you understand that I was that kid. I literally went around and asked people during the session on their own while everyone else was doing things. Hey, do you want to, is there anything you want to know? And all that sort of stuff. And everyone was like, yeah. And then they came up afterwards. It's not like I was like stoically, this was like a room with 10 people in it. And it's not like I was, marching up and down going, you need to do your work. I was trying to be as informal as possible. I wasn't the lecturer, I was just a PhD student. Let's do this, 7. I like the what do you call that? The hand going out. I want to say flamboyant. It's not flamboyant. It's, I don't know. Posturing? I don't know. I like that hand. I like drawing that hand, but I want him to be holding a big old ear trumpet. Mood for you is just that if anybody asks you what you don't understand, your brain just goes radio silence. We were doing problems in the class. It's like I handed out sheets with questions and problems and little summaries of things. You don't even have to say anything. You just point. And they were very articulate when they were actually explaining what the problem was. They were lovely. There was a lovely person. I don't want to complain too much, but really, I don't know, it just made me laugh. We're British. It's impolite to speak out in class when asked if you don't understand anything. It wasn't a class. It was a study group. But I do know what you mean of sort of like, I used to have that in physics. For some reason, physics just doesn't go in my brain. Particularly like electronics and stuff like that. Just, why? Why do you say that the current moves one way but it doesn't? What is a volt? What? Why does that relation exist? Oh, because the universe says so. That's helpful. Physics has no answers as to why, because the answer is always because the universe said so. That's why I like maths. There's proof. It's not a vault, it's a box. Alright, stream's over. We're going home. You've broken the stream. Look, it's not even working. I was saying that out loud before I realised what you were talking about. Oh dear. That's not how it works. You can point to problems, then people just go, what do you not understand about it? And you're just, nah. That sounds like more of a problem with teaching. Usually if people are pointing at something because they don't understand it, it's because they don't understand the way it was taught. And as a consequence, you need to try and work out a different way to explain it, rather than just say, I don't know. There's something that annoys me about methods of teaching that are drawn from the perspective of already knowing everything. It's like, I understand it's very hard to put yourself into the position of somebody who doesn't know the things that you are qualified to teach. It is very difficult. But at the same time, it's an annoying default position. Yeah. I wish teachers were given a better opportunity and training and resources to actually be able to do that properly. Again, I'm not going to complain about teachers. They've got a hard enough job. At least they came to the study group. That's a hurdle in and of itself. Yes, the numbers did not dwindle as time went on. That's the saving grace. People did not stop coming. Which I expected. Granted, there was an attendance sheet every time, but I also didn't really pay that much attention. If people wanted to sign for their friend, I understand his first year. And why you cried during your chemistry exam? Oh, I've definitely one of my favourites. So here's Octavius, whose hearing is not great, but he invented music, so he can't ask questions. I did physics is the scientific equivalent of God did it. Yeah, exactly. Occasionally they make a breakthrough and they find out, oh, the reason this is happening is because atoms can be broken up into bits. And then the next one is, the reason that electrons are so weird is because they're not actually electrons, they're quantum things that can exist in multiple places at once via a probability density field. So occasionally you do get a little bit of an explanation, but that just raises more questions, usually. And then you get quantum mechanics and people are just thoroughly confused. What was I saying? Yes. I did in A-level. So for Americans, that would be the end of high school. For people in elsewhere, it would be the after secondary school. Or I guess now it is the end of secondary school because it's compulsory some sort of education up to 18 now, even if it's an apprenticeship. Anyway, I did maths A-level, unsurprisingly, and there was nobody in the school qualified to teach me the second level of it, so I ended up teaching myself out of books. And I just used books that were around. So, and the maths was split up into 5 modules with different tiers. So there was core, which is the stuff you had to do. There was decision, which is what I would call discrete maths, and is my favourite kind of maths. Love a good bit of discrete maths. Then there's statistics, further pure, which is more stuff based on the core, so I think calculus and bits and bobs. And then there's mechanics, and mechanics is physics. And I thought I'll do at least one mechanics because I probably should. So I taught myself mechanics out of the books that I could find in my school, and then I went and sat in the exam, and I looked at the exam and I thought, did I study for the wrong thing? I don't recognize any of this. And that is the only time I got marks so pure, so bad that it was in Britain the worst score you can get is a U, which stands for ungraded. And I remember when all my results were being handed out, somebody came up to me, the officer in charge of all the exam marks and that, just came up to me and said, "Hey Chris, just want a little chat about your results. I just wanted to say there might be something wrong with," and I said, it's the mechanics one, isn't it? That's fine, don't worry, I know. Yeah, it turns out that the books that we had in our school significantly out of date. So I was just learning all the wrong stuff. Yeah, so that's the closest I had to that. This is what you get for trying to teach yourself. Yeah. On the plus side, it taught me that education doesn't constantly dumb down, because in order to actually cover all of the stuff from the first mechanics module, I would have had to have learned the first and second mechanics module that there was before that. So it did so bad we just didn't bother grading it. That literally happened in secondary school. I was, because I decided to go to a not very good school, because A, my brother was there, and B, I like being a big fish in a small pond. I didn't want to be pushed. I wanted to go at my own pace. So I used to get quite good grades, and the school was like, "Oh, look, we have." Well, in my year, there were like 4 or 5 of us who were oddly for that school, because we have a system down here called grammar schools, where all the children coming out of primary school who have a particularly good academic acuity can go to a grammar school, and then everyone else goes to the other schools. And there are a few people in our school who probably should have gone to grammar schools but didn't, and the school was like, "Look at these people. Give us more funding," basically. And I did so badly at PE, at physical education, gym, basically. They literally didn't bother putting the grade on my grade sheet because they didn't want it to look bad. It's like, oh, that's great. My grade sheet became a little bit of a PR exercise for the school. It's like, we'll just take that off. We won't even try and grade it. I did good in PE theory though, sports science. I was fine with that. Our physics teacher taught us everything from floppy disks and refused to use any other computer than his one from the 80s. Oh, lovely. That sounds very physics teachery. My A-level physics teacher was, I think, 7.5 foot tall. And there's a couple of things I remember from that. Well, other than the fact that, as an unrelated fact, his eyes never opened up more than halfway, and he had a wonderful sarcastic wit. But the 2 things I remember about that is, 1, he was told to do less exercise and eat more by his doctor, which I just remember thinking, really? Because he has to do less exercise because he could shatter his ankles if he does too much because he's so tall, and he has to eat more because his metabolism's a lot faster. But the other one was when he had to do something which involved pinning something to the ceiling for a physics experiment, and he was terrified of heights. He's just on this little step ladder, just wobbling, trying to... It's like, you're 7.5 foot tall. How can you be afraid of heights? He was great. Mr. Sims. Anywho. I also had a maths teacher who spoke like Sid the Sloth from Ice Age. He was good. Can't remember his name. Taller you are, the further you fall. I guess. I mean, if he can shatter his ankles by playing football. Imagine what just falling over would do. You've played Valheim. Tall things falling over is very dangerous. It would break all his bones. So this is all I've drawn in 26 minutes. Well, like 15. But... I said timber. We're chatting. This is a just chatting stream, actually. I specified it as such. You never did, but to be fair, the only one you killed with trees is yourself. I kind of got killed by a tree when I was cutting a tree down and was running away from it falling and ran directly into a troll who then killed me. That happened. It's like, oh, it's falling down, better walk backwards. What's that sound? We killed planets like 2 or 3 times. You had a wonderful history teacher who taught timelines by leapfrogging around the classroom. It's things like that. You just put in the energy, put in the enthusiasm. You can really get things going like that. It's difficult to do that with maths, but I try. I was at a slight disadvantage when I used to teach at my old secondary school, because back then I had a ponytail, and that is all that the students pay attention to. So, why'd you have a ponytail? What do you mean, why? I do. Also, the fact that I have resting serial killer face. That works quite well for being a teacher. You look really intimidating as you wander around with, you know, you look like you're about to stab someone, but in your head, all that's happening is you're listening to the Final Fantasy Chocobo music or something. The troll was a hitman for the tree. Ooh. I had a French teacher who yelled at people for pronouncing the S in French words when it was silent and played on his phone while he was taking tests. That's the opposite of what you want. You drop French after that, yeah. Yeah, I would too. I'm trying to think of other good teachers I had. I can't really say much about maths teachers because, again, because of the whole big fish, small pond thing, I basically just taught myself maths by having a book and reading in the corner. So I guess it was the teachers of the subjects that I wasn't good at that I paid more attention to for obvious reasons. Already you weren't considering it anymore at that point, but that just really made you want to drop it and run as fast as you could. Maybe that was his plan. He wanted fewer students. Oops. I think he only taught at the school for that 1 year. That's just bad timing. Although that might be precisely why he only taught there for 1 year. I did have a maths teacher who had just the shortest temper I know I've ever seen on anyone. I was like, why did you become a maths teacher if you have such a short temper? I'm not a babysitter. I know. Stop saying it. So you guys should move. Probably should. I become a teacher if you have a short temper. I don't know. Oh, we used to have a music teacher, Mr. Jacob, who was eccentric, but also you really got the impression that he loved music, he loved teaching music, and he hated children. It was just always stressed, and you're like, oh, bless you. Like, he was a lovely guy, but it's just like, you know, he was in music because his music career didn't work out well. So he was in teaching because his music career didn't work out well. And I did find a video of him performing in a pop duo in the 80s. He played the zither. So that was nice. Had 2 years of music class and you learned absolutely nothing. I finished music a year early because my school basically had nothing on the curriculum for music. So they were basically like, hey, write a piece of music and then you'll pass. Okay. I did that anyway. And so I then did music tech for a year as a kind of gap thing. And I learned so much more in that 1 year of music tech than I did in the last 4 years of music. So what do they teach in music in schools? I know what they teach. They teach bloody this wheel, and it's wrong. Is this wrong? No, it's not. It's fine. Yeah, I don't remember anything from... I remember learning the chords to Gangsta's Paradise. That's one thing I remember learning in music. I don't know why. And that's Jacob for you, Mr. Jacob. Had a German teacher who had a short temper and would often remind us that he was the teacher when you could still hit children. Yeah, that's the sign of somebody who's not really in it for the teaching, isn't it? The Wahata? The waiter? The waiter. Waiter? Waiter? Blin blin blon. Oh, I watched somebody... There's a nice app which allows you to trigger commands on a computer via sound. And there's somebody I follow on Twitch who recently just finished beating Dark Souls on guitar. They just played their guitar and each note was tied to a button, basically. And they rebound all of their controls at the end so that the controls they used to kill Gwyn at the end was this music. Like ding, 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 ding. It was great. You remember learning what the different symbols on a music sheet are? Then it was never brought up again. We had to make a music video, which was awful. Oh god, student film stuff. It's always awful. They didn't have to play the drums, at which point you found out you have zero coordination between your left and right hand. That's disadvantageous for music. You said an instrument with a Z. The film. Oh, a zither. It's like a. It's kind of like a harp in a sense, but it's flat. I guess it's like a tiny inside of a piano. That might be the best way of explaining. It's like the inside of a piano, but small. And you don't hit it with hammers, you pluck it with your fingers. Also got to practice the little drum routine like once before we had to do it for a grade. Oh, great, fantastic. Oh, you lied to one of your French teachers right at the start of school year because she asked us to write some stuff about ourselves, including our birthdays. And you're a dummy who accidentally wrote the day and month digits for your birthday backwards. You accidentally put September the 3rd instead of March 9th. Oh, you're naturally British. Wonderful, well done. And she was somebody who had announced each student's birthday in class. Oh, she did right for you right at the start of the year and you completely panicked and just went with it. Oh. To make matters worse, your brother was in that exact same class, so one person was there to witness your lie. It wasn't a lie, it was a mistake. It was a mistake that you didn't have the heart to correct, which is not a lie. No. Plen, plen, plon. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about my teachers. Not really. I guess there was one teacher, he taught humanities, which I still don't know what that is. I got an A in it, don't know what it is. But he was just into everything. He loved other cultures, he loved hearing about people and life experiences and like getting together sort of multicultural festivals and listening to music from around the world. He just loved everything cultural from everywhere. And it was great. His enthusiasm was infectious. And I guess he's the person who got me into recording music because he wanted to set up a little radio station for the school and getting people to write music from their sort of heritage and things like that. So we set up a little computer in a room in the school with recording equipment, and I recorded my first album on it. So that was nice. He also set up a multicultural event on my school on the field, and I got to sit in a yurt and play a hurdy-gurdy, which was nice. Had an English teacher who spent the whole year having us do creative writing and couldn't fathom why we all tanked our mock exams. You'll learn by doing, it's fine. You wish you had a fun math teacher story, but your math teachers weren't very helpful and you floundered and failed a lot. Math teachers, it's like, they get a bad reputation, but they've also got such a hard job. Maths is not a one-size-fits-all subject, but people think it is, and that's what's so frustrating. It's like, no, you actually need to spend time with individuals trying to find the way of explaining something that fits their way of thinking. And maths teachers just don't have time to do that, and it's so tragic, because maths is great. Then it was like a month of frantic cramming to try and teach us everything she thought we'd pick up for osmosis writing stories. Yeah. Your maths teacher and you butted heads more than anything. Yeah. Some math teachers do develop a bit of a thick skin of like, okay, so this is the job I have to do, and if anyone argues, I'm just gonna say no. It's like, but there are also arseholes, don't get me wrong. I was quite lucky, I had mostly nice ones. I had the same math teacher for 2 years in the latter half of high school and failed everything. And then in the last year you had a math teacher you actually understood and it clicked and it was the best feeling ever. That's the thing, you need to find... Everyone can understand maths. I'm positive of this. Everyone can understand maths. You just need to find the way of explaining it that makes sense with them, that makes it click. And it's a philosophy. You know, if your way of thinking is not in tune with the philosophy of maths, then you need to use your way of thinking, your philosophy of life, as a way of connecting. And you can't do that when there are 35 people in the class. You often told him the only reason you were struggling was because of his teaching, and he didn't like that. That's not a good sign in a maths teacher. Again, they've got a hard job. I don't want to pass judgment on teachers, but the evidence is not pointing well at the moment. You spent a lot of your later school years asleep, and you missed out on most of the exam prep, so you didn't see how you could cram a year's worth of stuff into a few weeks. It's not an ideal set of scenarios. It was also just that she actually explained things and didn't just sit around in class chatting to people and only explaining things when people asked for it. Yeah. I guess if there's one thing worse than curriculum setters thinking that maths is a one-size-fits-all subject, it's maths teachers who take that by face value and just say, okay, here's the thing. Here is long multiplication. I will do an example on the board. Now do it 100 times. It's like, you didn't explain what any of the steps were. And again, you don't ask. Yes, exactly. You've got to... this is also one of the other advantages of being in a physical space with students, is being able to notice the students who are struggling but aren't saying anything. But at the same time, like, did you regularly hand in work? Like little, examples that you did in the class and things like that? Because they should have picked up on that. If they didn't, if they didn't pick up that you were struggling through that alone, they clearly weren't paying enough attention. Dyslexia didn't help as they did the slower to catch up nonsense. Oh, right, yeah. Not for maths. That's weird. That's like the one subject that it's really easy to do that in. Of all of the subjects. That's the one that was most well suited to lots of small examples. Lots of small problems. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to understand why people think they can teach maths the way they do. Most of your teachers didn't explain things, they just seemed to kind of expect us to understand things just by following their notes or the book, and you didn't understand without it being properly explained. Sometimes I had to show our homework, but he pretty much always used the I forgot / I was busy excuse, and he was always like, okay, catch up before next time. That's a teacher who who wanted to reduce their workload at all costs. That's what we've got there. But you're in the basic class, you forget the term where you go on nature walks and make furniture as your maths learning. He would just turn up as his class and stare him down, daring him to make me leave. For a whole term, you photocopied homework assignments, shared textbooks and printed notes, and you were given nothing to try and deter you from turning up. I would even grade my own homework off of my friends because he refused to grade your work because I wasn't meant to be in the class. See, reasons I'm not a fan of online maths class is delayed response. Yeah. There are definitely benefits to being face-to-face. Dark Souls has ended. Can we get something more uplifting? Rogue Legacy, why not? It was a time, yes, I can imagine. Well, I mean, part of the problem is I can't fully empathise, but I can try and imagine. And, like, I admit I have been very lucky for having quite smooth sailing through academia, but I definitely had friends who didn't, and I try my best to empathise with this sort of thing. So I don't want to be, I don't want to just sit here in silence and say that must be awful, and then not say anything. But at the same time, I don't want to pretend, I don't want to patronise. Oh, you were actually playing Rogue Legacy before the stream. It's a good game. Rogue Legacy 2 came out, didn't it? In your last year of high school, you decided to take the initiative and ask a question to your chemistry teacher. He held up your hand for a solid 10 to 15 minutes until class was over, and he never came over because he didn't notice. Well, that's a confidence kicker. Oh no, you're just sharing stories. You're fine. It's. I don't want to. So you regret saying something because now I just gotta talk about me. The point is, I don't know. I appreciate the chat, and I'm, you know, I don't know what to say. I'm bad with discussions like this. Yeah. If I only had a great time, that's brilliant. So did you. Just this one teacher. I'm trying to think if I had a really bad teacher. The caretakers were arseholes. I mean, they weren't. They were just, they had no time for kids being stupid, which is fair enough. They have to deal with it literally all the time. I think the sequel's out for PC. I'm not sure if it's out elsewhere yet, but you look around. It's the... You like the first one, though. You beat it on PS4 and you're now playing on Xbox One. Wonderful. Got to the third boss and almost immediately died right before this stream. It's an unforgiving game. I was going to try and get all achievements in it, but apparently there's an achievement for beating it in like 5 generations or something. That's not happening. I'm not doing that. I had a good time for most of high school. Hey, Christy. How's it going? It's going fine. We did this. So, you know, I'm sure you can... If I just leave this up, I'm sure you can catch up. What's this game? Rogue Legacy. It's a roguelike game, but instead of dying and starting over and stuff like that, it's generational. So you pass on traits to the next generation, and each successive generation has different... You know, some of them might be colorblind, or might have anosmia, or... I think one of my favorite ones in it is the character might be gay, and it says gay, and it's literally nothing different. I like that. Like, oh, this heir to the thing is gay. And it's like, what does that change? Nothing. It's just they're gay. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, your teachers are all pretty much meh. One substitute English teacher did cause you to have your love of reading and writing, though. Fantastic. We used to have 2 English teachers. One for English and one for English literature. And the English teacher was fierce. When you got to know her, she was great. But she was one of those teachers who did not take any nonsense. And then you had the English lit teacher, who was just an absolute pushover, lovely lady. Clearly so enthusiastic for literature of all kinds. Have you ever seen Porridge? It was like the 2 prison guards in that, Mackay and Barraclough. That's another 70s sitcom for you. Why are all my references 70s sitcoms? But yeah, that was nice. Still annoyed that we didn't do 1984 though. Had to do To Kill a Mockingbird. Absolutely adored history class in the last 3 years of high school because the teacher so clearly loved teaching while also enforcing a learning environment. Nobody else liked him because he was strict, but you know, whatever. To each their own. We're talking bad teachers? We're talking teachers in general, but yeah. Yours refused to either acknowledge, accommodate, or understand your chronic illness. That's not a good sign. So school was bad. But you have so much knowledge to help people with now. Yeah, help people. Yeah, it's a shame. And we can take that knowledge onwards and improve for the next generation. That's that's what we can do. Yeah, we stopped doing history when we started doing humanities, which I still don't know what it is. My original understanding was that humanities was history, religious studies, and geography all combined in one. And as far as I can tell, it was none of those. History was honestly the only class you were actively participating in after a while, like answering questions and such. Well, I wonder why you're still doing it. Is there any possible signs that you might have gone on to be interested in history? Your brother's gonna have to give away his dog because they're too busy, so you're having her over to see if she fits in. No. Well, fingers crossed. Trying to think of other, like, nice... I think one of the nice things about our music department, which was slowly burgeoning over the course. Is burgeoning the right word? What does burgeoning mean? Sounds like something you can get a cream for. Burgeoning. Yeah, developing quickly. Yes, that was the right word. It didn't sound right. Burgeoning. You know? Yeah, so we had a music department which was getting bigger while I was there and getting more and more budget. And there were 3 teachers there, one of whom was a classically trained pianist, one of whom was a 80s pop duo dropout, and the other of whom was like a cool indie band sort of young teacher. And they were just like the best combination of music teachers, because they were just, if you wanted to know anything about music from somebody who was genuinely enthusiastic about it, one of them would be the right person. So that was always, they were always open, sort of like, you know, if someone wants to ask something about music or find something out or learn something. They were always there. And then towards the end, we got another teacher who was just hugely into musicals. Which is why I did inexplicably to the teaching department at my school, I decided to do performing arts in my last years. They were like, no, you should do more science. It's like, I'm already doing double science. It's fine. So I did performing arts because I wanted to do more acting stuff. I'm not very good at it, but I quite liked it. And so I did performing arts, and they said, oh, okay, this course is a third singing, a third acting, and a third dancing. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. It was about 9/10 musicals. And I acted in about a third of them. And that was when I learned that I can't dance, because we did a thing where we had to do a dance, we had to learn a dance, all in sync and doing it properly and whatnot, and then we'd film it, and we could watch it back to see how we would improve our dance by looking at it from the outside. And boy howdy did I put a lot of effort into that. Like, I thought, I'm doing this really, you know, precisely and strong and whatever, and then I watched the video back, and I was just a floppy gorilla, just flailing around like nothing. And yeah, obviously, everyone else was focused on themselves in the video, but I was just in the back, just putting my head in my hands, and I'm like, I'm never gonna dance again. That's literally the best I could have done. I'm never gonna dance again. War flashbacks, they made you do that in uni. Yeah. But I liked acting and I got into singing, so. Hate watching video of yourself, yeah. I remember the first time I heard my voice back as well. And it's a lot more nasal than it is in my head. You're all used to it by now, but. Yeah. I had a huge argument that movement should be about acting physically, but no, all dance. I can't hear You Can't Stop the Beat from Hairspray without cringing. I can't even remember what song it was we were dancing to. I think I've just blanked it out of my brain. I remember enjoying dance so much until I saw how I danced. I used to really enjoy it. It was just that one event. It was like, no. Self-awareness can be a bad thing. Let's put this back on screen. It's a slightly more appealing visual. I'm trying to think what else there was. One of my science teachers, Miss Dugan, she was Scottish, 4'0", and approximately spherical, and was either the happiest, most enthusiastic person you've ever seen, or the strictest, angriest person you've ever seen. But she was good. She had the enthusiasm. Again, she had that kind of, you know, you teach science with enthusiasm and energy. Even if you can, you know, just about reach the other side of the desk because you're quite short. Bless her, she was great. Yeah, I think most of the teachers I didn't like were PE teachers because they made me do things. They made me run and play rugby. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else particularly remarkable. Oh, one of my old maths teachers used to eat a clove of, is that the right word? Of garlic every day. Interestingly, his breath didn't smell of garlic though. Don't know why. Well, not that I noticed anyway. Didn't deliberately try and get close or anything. He also broke a door once. I can't remember why, what it was he was talking. It was something to do with crocodiles. And in order to demonstrate it, he slammed a book in a door and broke it. This was the one that sounds like Sid the Sloth. Lovely guy. Just a bit weird. It's to ward off vampires. Ooh. He was one of those people who had like a roller coaster of a career. You know, so he's gone traveling the world, and then he worked in a university doing image processing, and then he worked for a drug company, and then now he's a maths teacher. And it's like, what? You need mouth hygiene tips from that person. I don't know. Towards the end of it, he was clean shaven when he started the course, and then at the end he had a massive beard. So maybe it was a filter thing. I don't know. Big enough beard filters out all smells. I need to trim my beard actually. I think that's all the interesting teachers I had. This isn't really about the teachers, but I remember in primary school, in maths class, we used to have a teacher called Mr. Tucker. He was bald and had a ginger goatee, and he was very cheerful. And me and a friend, Edward, we were both very into maths. And this was back when, you know, you're learning addition and multiplication and things like that. And we used to do this thing when if we were given a bunch of examples to do, little problems, we would both race each other to try and finish. And if we finished at roughly the same time, we would literally sprint to the other side of the class and slam down our work on his table, on the teacher's table. And whoever did it first, that was the first person he'd mark. And if you got any of the questions wrong, you'd have to run back and redo them. And it was like the amount of enthusiasm just for maths. Lavender beard shampoo. Ooh. Is that good if you've got hay fever? Probably not. I don't want to be allergic to my own beard. It'd be terrible. Also, lavender makes you sleepy, doesn't it? Be a bit weird. The lavender makes you sleepy? I don't know. Or is that poppies? Am I mixing real life up with The Wizard of Oz? I might be. You remember doing extra maths assignments whenever you were done with your work in primary school? And then high school happened. Yeah, clearly that's a problem with the teaching then. Oh, such a shame. I hate it when I hear that people who were enthusiastic about maths stop being enthusiastic about maths because of teaching, and it's like, oh. Now you can barely multiply. And to be fair, I can also barely multiply. I spent 4 years at university multiplying in places where 3 times 3 could be 2. So now my mental arithmetic's just all over the place. High school was the death of a lot of interest, to be honest. 2 plus 2 is 4. Yeah! And it's that simple. The classes part of school was amazing in the lower classes, and then poof, all gone. I mean, part of that might just be, you know, your brain changes as you get older, going through adolescence, your perspective on things does change. To be fair, you can barely multiply. You find that with mathematicians. People who do maths, it's like something about those basic skills where you're just like, nope, that's gone. I can do algebra, no sweat. Multiplication, what's 7 times 8? Actually, 7 times 8. I saw a thing, I think it was online, of people saying, oh, I hate how much I cheat in maths because, you know, if I'm adding 17 to 6, or no, if I'm adding like 11 to 16 or whatever, I'm like, oh, okay, take the 1 from the 11 and add it to 16, that makes 17, so it's now 10 plus 17, and I can add 10 by just turning it, the 1 in the 17 up to a 2. It's like, oh, I hate how much I'm cheating in maths. It's like, no, that's algebra. Stop banning the word Kiro, Automod. Kiro is not a bad word. High school hit hard and you thought you just wouldn't like maths for a long time, but you like maths more now. You like logic puzzles and stuff. Logic puzzles are great. You figured out how to solve them and you enjoy them. Great. You do multiplication constantly at work when counting stock, yeah. But yeah, sorry, basically mathematicians have weird ways of remembering things, and I do that sort of thing all the time. If you're multiplying by 11, you just multiply by 10 and then add another 1. That sort of thing. You always find little algebra shortcuts because you can't be bothered to do actual work. But the one that's weird for me is that if you're doing, what if you am though? You're not. You're a nice. You had to assure your nephew it was okay to count on his fingers. It's fine. Anything that works. That's the way maths is not a procedure. It's a series of results, and however you want to get to that result, if it works, go right ahead. He's 7 and he's being taught not to use his fingers when counting. It's like, teach him more interesting ways to count on his fingers. Teach him counting the segments on the finger so you can count to 12 on one hand. Like the old, wasn't Mesopotamians. Who was it who did that? Can't remember. They had a base 12 counting system. I'll teach him to count binary. Then you can count to 2 to the 10. Which is great. You also taught yourself algebra instead of memorizing multiplication. Exactly. Like the ones you kind of need to remember, I guess, are the single digits. And the one that always used to get me was 7 times 8. There was something about 7 times 8 that I just could not get my head around. And then I realized that 7 times 8 is 56. And I was like, oh, hang on. 56, 7 times 8 is 5, 6, 7, 8. Ah! And that now every time I see 7 times 8, my brain goes 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 556. Got it. It's just little things like that. If anybody knows the song by Steps, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's what goes on in my head every time I see 7 times 8. But yeah, literally, I was doing a thing the other day and I had to do 7 times 6. I was like, what's 7 times 6? It's like 7 times 5 is 35. So I added 7, so that's 42. And it was as I was doing that at the age of 28 that I thought, hang on, I know 7 times 3, that's 21. Why don't I just double that? So now I know a quick way of doing that. Tell your nephew you know a uni professor who uses their fingers to keep track of numbers. Whatever works. That's the great thing about maths. Whatever works. There is no system to maths. It is just result. You know, I remember when our school, my secondary school, back when we used to work there as a teaching assistant, they changed the way they taught multiplication. I do it via sort of column method, and they started teaching a box method. And I remember people sort of complaining that, oh, I don't know, you know, this isn't proper multiplication. I know how to do, you know, what is this newfangled, so on and so forth. And it's like, you're doing literally the same algorithm. It just looks different. Like, calm down. So you're an adult. Surely you need to understand that maths is not the system you use to calculate it. I guess that's part of it. Like, developing an algorithm is part of maths, but it's not that and that alone. Yeah, I got bored the other day. and I decided to calculate the square root of 29 by hand. As you do. I was in a bad place because art wasn't working. Nothing creative was working, so I've got to do something else. And I'm 29 soon, and I thought, oh, that's the thing. I was considering doing that because my birthday falls on a creative stream, and I was considering doing that on stream, and I was like, no, that's far too boring. You know, if you thought this was boring, did I keep it? Did I keep the calculation? I might have done. I don't think so. Maybe not. Hang on. I want to see if I did. I might have just deleted it because, let's face it, who cares? But it was therapeutic. I don't even know how to calculate square roots. I worked out an algorithm. It's probably inefficient, but it works. I don't like this new kind of math. It's just not the way we do things. Yeah. Do what you want on your birthday stream, whatever it is. I honestly, like, it was literally 12-digit multiplications and divisions. It's not really interesting. I wanted it to 10 significant figures. That was my goal, and it did take about a couple of hours. So it's a lot of long calculation, and I wouldn't be able to talk with you while I'm doing that. So that's a big reason to cut that off as an idea. I'd want to communicate. Birthday stream, sorry you got distracted. I was just talking about my absolutely awful idea for a birthday stream in which I spend 2 hours calculating the first 10 decimal places of the square root of 29. Which I'm not going to do. Because I've already done it. I may have deleted the file, but I've already done it. I did do this though. I've been doing a lot of mathsy things recently. I've been having withdrawal symptoms. I did this. Earlier today, which is the colours were the thing I was sort of exploring, but really what's the maths thing is this. Oh, hello, thank you for blocking chat, thank you. And all this is I had a grid up, there it is, and what you do, simple little construction. It doesn't look simple, but it is. You just draw a line like that. And then you put a line at the end of all of the lines that aren't blocked off. So like there's a point here. Hang on, I've got it ungrid. There's a point here and there's a point here. So you put a line there and another line there. That's step 2. Now you do step 3 and you do it for this point here, this point here, this point here, this point here. And you do this. Oops. Give me straight lines, thank you. There's one there, there's one there, there, and then you do one there and there, there, and then you do one there, there, then there, and you get this nice pattern coming out, like that. These, and then that, and I just decided while I was doing this, what if I took 4 colours, here they are, and at each stage, every time I closed off an area, like this, so this square here, I've just closed off. What if I colour that in with a different colour on each of the steps and see what the resulting colours look like? This is what's called a matchstick or a toothpick diagram. There's lots of them, lots of different types of these things. And I thought I'd colour it in, and this is what I got. It's fractally kind of thing, yeah. I was first, this was first drawn to my attention by a video involving Sloan. I can't remember his first name. He made the online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences, which is one of the best mathematical things to come out of the 21st century. And he loves all these sorts of things. And he wanted to know how many toothpicks there were at any given point of this process, and he worked out a way of doing it. But what I thought would be interesting is what are the shapes that you make in between? And what I found, if you take away the lines and take away the grid, what I found, firstly, red gets bugger all. Red gets barely anything. Purple, not quite so much. It's orange and yellow that are the interesting ones. Because each step is a power of 2. You get a power of 2 steps before you get to the next big square. So I thought I'd do 4 colours. It's a power of 2. And if you split it up, you get this nice sort of tree fractal going on with the yellow. This sort of every second colour, as it were. This is the purples, which is not particularly interesting. And then you get this with the orange ones. You get this lovely little sort of branchy thing. This is the sort of stuff I like in maths. It's like you could turn this into sort of like a Grecian frieze or something. Or you can sort of see this as a relief, so that the white part is like an embossing or something, and then you've got these sort of candelabra sort of shapes going on down here. Yeah, make a great symbol for a video game. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, you could turn this into pixel art. Kira Borth, what? Who? What? Who? Also, you just realised that next stream is your birthday. Well, I hope you enjoy it. We may have to do something special. Looks like carpet embroidery. It's nice. But yeah, it's just like these sorts of... What was that all about? It's just these sorts of little explorations in maths. It's like all I did is I just followed an algorithm. I made this, which in and of itself is quite nice. It looks like a kind of... you could turn this into sort of like a Japanese sort of paper wall door thing. I can't remember the term. What's it called? You can make a nice pattern out of it, is what I'm saying. But I thought if I colour it, what do you get? And it turns out you get some nice maths. You can get some nice maths. This is nice maths. And I could go into the complicated algebra of working out exactly how many toothpicks you've got at any given stage, but hey, look, nice maths. Look at that. Kira Borth. Gonna be old. You're gonna be gold. Yeah. Yeah. This was just something I did today because I thought, I wonder what that looks like. It looks like that, apparently. I don't think anyone's done this before. This is new maths. You're seeing new maths in front of you. This is brand new. Int maths lovely. Still feel bad for Red. He's got bugger all. I think it was the last stage you got all these ones here. No, otherwise it was just these dots. Poor Red. Maybe you are all you old people. Stop making me feel old. Look, we know you're like, what, 11? It's... There was also another one which is slightly less interesting. Let me just show you. Since this is a math stream. This was all stuff. There's nothing there. Did I keep this? Probably not. Oh, was this the thing? This might have been a thing. Was this the thing? Oh yeah, this was the little diagram I made before. Yeah, I showed this in my little Patreon Discord. I decided to make a little picture where I drew all the numbers. I wrote down all the numbers, put them in little circles, and then I drew a line between them if they added up to be a prime number. I wanted to see what that looked like, and if you plot it like this, it's nice. It's symmetrical around. If you turn it into a hexagon, it's no line goes through this central bit. It's quite cool. Turns out there's a reason for that, because all prime numbers are either side of a multiple of 6. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And again, I've never seen anyone do this. I thought I'd give it a crack. Why not? It's my version of Julius summoning circles for drawing faces. Yeah. I did do another one before, which was triangle numbers as well. Oh, and then I tried to generalize it into quadratics, which didn't work well. But hey, whatever. You try these things. What are we talking about? I've missed a lot of chat. Chibi doesn't remember Nokia 3310s. Yay! I love those. They're great. Drawing challenge. Draw a face using that summoning circle. What do you mean? This is the mouth. Do you not see it? This is the mouth. You're very welcome. Well, I got a thumbnail for the stream. Porfa, it is Porfa, isn't it? Get rid of that. Yeah, so I've been doing little mathy things. I've also been programming Chaos Chess because, again, creative work not going on. But I drew a picture today, so that's a step in the right direction. Yeah. I need to end this stream. The stream needs to stop. Yeah, I could probably... This is probably something I shouldn't be doing on stream. Everything might break in a second. Oh, I hit the microphone. Great, wonderful. There we go. And now you're back to your rightful place, and I can look up and I can see chat, and you look great. Wonderful. Oh, yeah. That's a capo. Don't mind that. 12-hour stream. No. I did that 6.5-hour stream for Dark Souls, and that was more than enough. Yeah. Get that back in place. Never-ending stream. No. It will end when I end, which would be surprisingly quickly. Yeah, so, thank you for coming along. On Tuesday... Ooh. New draw-through time. Boy, do I hope you like it, and boy, do I hope you understand it. It's going to take some explanation. We're going to get to learn the demonic summoning runes for Kiro's Borth, yes. And I think there might be room to do something special for Kiro during that. So we'll see. Mysteries, yes. So this is, yeah, we're gonna be doing a new draw through, starting the new draw through. We're gonna be doing a part 0, as is tradition for the interactive ones, where I explain what's going on and we probably design a character. 2 ashes. No, nothing special. I see, again, it's a democratic system. If everybody says that we have to, I can't say no, can I? Yeah, so I finally get to explain what all these weird runes are about. Again, it's gonna look complicated, what I've set up, and I put a fair old amount of work in setting it up, but the actual process of it should be straightforward. And it should allow people to, you know, dig in, get interactive, get creative, but only if they want to. This is an evolution of the previous draw-throughs where everybody had to vote, which was a little bit of the antithesis of these sorts of relaxed streams and stuff. Everything brings misery, but Kiro's birthday also sparks joy, so we got her. Draw through sparks joy. I hope, because it might end up being a disaster. Because it's quite different, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you understand it. It should be fine, and it's something that people can get into as much or as little as they want. So yeah, that's on Tuesday. And yeah, we'll get cracking with that, and then on Wednesday we'll carry on with Spring Falls, which we started on Saturday, and then once we're done with that, we might start Signs of the Sojourner, which is a little card game that looks interesting. Got lots of little games. You made me understand 70% of music maths. I'm sure you can make us understand a draw through. What's 70% of 16? I don't know. 1.6 times 7. 7 times 6 is 42. We just talked about that. 7 is 42. 7, 11.2. So 11. Yeah, I can get you into understand 11 things. Can you believe Chris is a good teacher? It took me an hour to explain all that stuff. And then I just drew a tree. And we ended the stream. Yeah. So the music has just ended, which is wonderful timing. So let's get some music up for the ending. What's a good end to this? Do we have anything mathsy? Not really. Anything that sounds like maths? I don't know. Anything bleepy bloopy? Bleep bloop. Give me bleeps and give me bloops. I have no bleeps. That'll do. Yeah. Metaton is bleep bloop. Yes. Should we do the original or should we do my version? My version is less bleepy. But it is also... I don't know. Do I have the original? Where is the original? Hello and welcome to the anticlimax, the stream. Thanks for the real stream. Thank you for being here and thank you for enduring. I'll do the original because I've played my own version quite a lot. And you can listen to my own version on SoundCloud if you so desire. If you're having withdrawal symptoms. Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming along. Hopefully you like the new draw through coming up. Oh, there's so much explanation. So bring yourself down or you TTS the song that shall not be named. Anyway, I shall alight and I'll see you around. Have a wonderful time. Hope the week ahead is great for you and I hope you enjoy things I have forthcoming. Enjoy yourselves. Goodbye.